pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen.
Approval of county board minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, obviously, I did that one wrong. But any additions or deletions? Tabitha?
No.
I need a motion for the additions or deletions.
So moved. Second.
Let's give it.
You got her covered.
Either way.
Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Lake Lena, EAW, public meeting.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. As you know, we have a proposed resort that has tripped the mandatory environmental assessment worksheet, one of the criteria. And one of the things that the board has discretion to do is to hold a public meeting in regard to that. When we discussed this in the planning session, the board opted to hold the public meeting, so this is what this is for. This is not a public hearing. It's essentially really an opportunity to inform the public of the scope of the environmental assessment worksheet. So I do have a short PowerPoint presentation. The applicant or the project proposer is here. I don't think we have anyone else in the audience. But what we'll do is I'll just go through this for your own information because this will be coming before you after the 30-day comment period, and then we'll just get acquainted with it if that's okay.
That'll be fine.
All right. So really just a summary of this project is it includes the conversion of an approximately 112.6 acre parcel to a 160 site seasonal recreational vehicle resort. And the property contains approximately 1,100 feet of shoreline along Lake Lena. And then the proposed features of the resort include a bathhouse, boat rentals, electrical, water, sewer, roads, walking paths, lake access, and recreational features such as an outdoor pool, playground, and volleyball court. So just to give you a frame of reference, this is a plat map of Scandi Valley Township, and the red dot is the location of this project. And then the next is just an aerial photograph of the parcel to give you any idea of what that looks like and where that is. Okay. And then, as I said, this project is tripping a mandatory environmental assessment worksheet, and that comes why, the reason why is Minnesota Rule 4410-4300 requires an environmental assessment worksheet for construction of a seasonal or permanent recreational development accessible by vehicle consisting of 50 or more sites, or the expansion of such a facility by 50 or more sites. And then that also tasks the local unit of government as the regulatory governmental unit for that. So that's why we're handling the EAW for this. The project purpose is essentially to provide recreational opportunities for those seeking to enjoy the outdoors by providing a facility that would provide those types of activities. And then just to give you an idea of what the conversion of this to a campground would look like, these are these are kind of some of the highlights of the cover types that are on the property and the before and after. So wetlands, there's about 6.92 acres of wetland, and afterwards there will remain 6.92 acres. There is 104.67 acres of total area of wooded and forest. And at the completion of this project, there'll be 65.574 acres of wooded and forest land. For lawn and landscaping, there's about 1.004 acres. That's really the lawn area around the existing building. And when it's done, there'll be an increase to 31.004 acres of that. Impervious surface, we've got about 0.096 acres of impervious surface right now, and that'll increase to 9.196 acres after campground construction. The required permits and approvals, the environmental assessment worksheet stays all permitting proceedings, so we're not able to do any permitting until we've gotten through this 30-day comment period and have responded. But after that, then this list of permitting then will take place. Not all of it is on the county level, so there are a couple of permits from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency regarding stormwater and septic system. The DNR will probably be looking at some aquatic plant management and water appropriation permit for wells. The Department of Health will be looking at this from a food, beverage, and lodging standpoint, and also the commercial well construction. And then Morrison County Land Services, then, we would be handling the rezone to shoreline commercial, the conditional use permit itself to establish the resort, and then also the land use permits for construction of buildings. Some of the highlighted cumulative potential effects of this project, as highlighted in the EAW, is an increase in stormwater runoff due to an increase in impervious surface and reduction of natural stormwater holding areas, a reduction in water quality due to pollution and eutrophication through fertilizers, sewage treatment systems, hazardous waste storage, increased stormwater runoff and erosion, a reduction in water quantity due to an increased use of local aquifers, a reduction in wildlife habitat due to fragmentation of forest lands and the social norm to create a manicured property, resulting in the loss of shoreline vegetation, a reduction in wildlife loss, an increase in the threat of introduction of invasive species to the area, which can affect native plants, animals, and water quality, an increase in noise and glare due to human activity, such as the use of leaf blowers, lawnmowers, radios, outdoor and decorative lighting. Where we're at right now with this is the comment period on this environmental assessment worksheet is currently open. That closes on January 2nd, 2020. After that, then the county must prepare a response to any substantive and timely public comments. And then the county board must determine whether an EIS, which is an environmental impact statement, is necessary. And then
Who determines that?
the county board. Then we'll prepare a proposed findings of fact. Then the county board will take official action via resolution on the need for an EIS. And then we'll prepare a record of decision to distribute all of that to the required parties. So we have quite a bit of work to do after this. And so right now, where that comment period is open, we held this public meeting during the comment period to allow people to fully understand the scope of the project and answer any questions. And so that's what we're here today. I do have Galen here, and he can answer any questions. He's really familiar with this project. So we're happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Amy, Galen, or whoever, who gets notified about this public meeting, public comment?
Mr. Chair.
There, thanks. So again, who gets notified about this public comments?
By law, we have to send a press release to our legal newspaper. It is up to them whether or not they'll publish that. I don't believe it was published, but we just have to submit it. And then we also do put a notice in the legal section of the paper, which we do pay for, and that ran a couple of weeks ago. And so that is our noticing requirement for the public meeting.
So can anyone comment on it? If I live in Iowa, can I comment on it?
Yes.
Because I know we've seen these before where people out of state have actually commented on some of them.
Yes, it's open to the public, and then our obligation to respond would be if there's any, so if they just comment that they don't like the resort, that's not something that we have to respond to.
Right.
But if they pull out something in the EAW that is of particular concern, then that would be something that we would need to respond back to that commenter on. And then also we need to prepare a list of all of the comments and responses to quite a list of agencies that this document had to go out to.
Gentlemen, anything else? Comments, questions?
Mr. Chair?
Mr.
Amy, I wonder
Zelinski.
if you can expand just a little bit on determining whether an EIS is necessary.
Yes. What we'll be bringing to you is a comment from all of the other agencies. So that will help frame that for you.
Okay.
And any comment from the public. And then also our office or our department will have a recommendation for you as well. So really what we'll do is when that comment period ends, we will go through that entire EAW. You have been sent a copy of that, so I encourage you to get familiar with it prior to that meeting. And then we will review all of the comments. And then that's really going to be a back and forth discussion between us and you on whether or not there are any elements within the EAW that warrant further investigation or further work through an EIS. So we will help you through that process.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Kind of related to what you had mentioned about notification for this meeting.
Yes.
There are components though throughout this process, if that goes to the end, that involves more public comment opportunity in which the mailings go out and things of that
Correct.
nature.
And also, the EAW is not a process meant to hold up a project, to stop a project. It's really to evaluate the environmental effects of a project. Really where the public also has an opportunity to weigh in on any impacts would be the rezone, the public hearing for the rezone, and then also the public hearing for the conditional use permit to establish the resort. So there'll be two other opportunities for that, and the noticing for that is different. That's of course in a notice in the paper, but it's also then that direct mailing to everyone within a half-mile radius.
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to notify because
Yes.
there's a lot more that comes in terms of communication out to the public.
And if I may, on this EAW or this, I'm assuming the applicant will have to be able to speak to at some of these meetings and say, what about this if we're questioning this at the board meetings or whatever?
When
I'm
those
hoping.
comments come in, we fully intend to share all of those comments with the applicant, and then we'll be working back and forth on a response to that, because some of that might need to come from the applicant.
Right.
So, yes.
Anything else, gentlemen?
What was the process of the EAW? Can you?
Like in what way?
I know you have to send it out to the DNR and, because there
Yeah.
was a holdup in this process, and who was the organization behind that holdup?
Oh, gotcha. So we first started talking with the applicant about this in April. He submitted all of the material to us in September. And so then how the law is written is the proposer can prepare it or the county can. Usually a proposer would need to hire a consultant to do that. We certainly were willing to do that. And so that came to us to complete. There are several inquiries that we need to make from other governmental agencies that are part of a complete EAW. And I'll let Galen visit with you about what those were. And so we're at the mercy of having that be returned, so we have a complete EAW. So Galen, do you want to visit about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's actually two documents that were kind of that extended the timeline on this. One is from the Department of Natural Resources. It's called the, the Natural Heritage Review of the project. So they end up sending, Minnesota Natural Heritage Information System. So you end up sending them an application for them to comment on it, and they send you information on the natural heritage in that area. They'll comment on threatened species, some kind of, I don't know if you want to call them classified documents, information that's not generally open to the public, specific locations of threatened animals that they don't want the general public to know about. And they'll comment on whether they're in that area, maybe what some potential impacts are going to be on that. So you end up sending an application to them, and they have a window there, and I think in this one it was particular, it said anywhere from 3 to 4 months it might take, and they do them in order that they receive them. So whether this is a mining operation or a resort, whichever one shows up first, is kind of dependent on that line.
We just get put in the queue.
Yeah,
Right.
and the other one was the SHOPA, which is the State Historic Preservation Office, also has to make a comment similar to the first one. So yeah, you end up kind of at their mercy, and we made trying to contact emails and phone calls, and I think they're just inundated. There's plenty of people asking the same questions. When is our letter coming? I think they just kind of have to
That EAW, again, we're the ones that take a look at that, but this EIS, that's quite extensive. And so, again, I know enough to be dangerous about these two, the impact statement. Is that something that then we'll have enough information that we can determine what an EIS is for, or?
So generally what the EAW is really kind of that general information that covers all of that, and that serves as a scoping document for an EIS. So generally what you're gonna do is you're gonna hear and see all of the comments from the different agencies and from the public, and they'll center around components of that EAW. What the county has to determine is there any component within that EAW that hasn't been fully addressed or fully vetted to truly know the environmental impacts of that? And what that does then is if you feel that there's a component in that EAW that needs further investigation, then that EAW is used as the scoping document, and the EIS then narrows to just those components. So you essentially task the proposer then with, okay, we still don't have enough information on this. This has been identified as a environmental, a potential for environmental impact. The EAW doesn't adequately give us enough information. We need an EIS on this, this, and this. So that's how that will
So it'll
work.
concentrate, so if a species is endangered, they're not gonna look just at this, they'll look just at the species, they're not gonna look at, okay, what's the aquatic invasive, they just concentrate on that species.
Correct, and
okay.
that's the county board's job, is to really identify what that EIS needs to address.
Okay, that's,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
go ahead.
Amy and Galen, so if we would go to the, if we would find it necessary to ask for an environmental impact statement, who is charged with the process of gathering that information that is presented as the EIS? Is that the applicant, that
The
is their
proposer.
responsibility to?
Yes, generally, when you get to an EIS, you need to hire a consultant, and that's on the proposer to do.
Okay.
It's on the local unit of government to determine whether it's complete, and so we certainly have a role in that, but that information generally will come from an outside consultant.
And the applicant then also bears the cost of preparing that EIS, whether
That's
it's the consultant and/or the time and materials to do that, so.
Correct.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Have we ever had anybody do an EIS in the county?
Not while I've been here.
Okay, that's what I thought, it hasn't been, so, because I know, again, they're expensive.
They are.
And they're very thorough too, you know, so. Gentlemen, anything else at this time?
No.
So the public comment goes until January 2nd.
Yes. So after that, then I will be, Galen and I will be going through all of those comments and kind of categorizing them. Then we'll be bringing those to you, and then preparing a response, and then working through the findings of fact and all of that with you.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing.
Go ahead.
Amy, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you know, when was the last time that a full-blown resort started from scratch in Morrison County? Do you know? I mean, if we're talking about
We've had
EAWs,
expansions.
EISs,
And
But
we,
from-
we've had expansions that have tripped an EAW before. And we've also had petitions for an EAW before. But a brand-new resort, that's not something that we have seen for
Okay.
quite some time.
very good, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Okay,
That's it for now.
that's all I have then.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we don't see you before or after, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, you too.
All right,
We'll probably see you later.
that's what I figured, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sheriff's report. Good morning, Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
Sheriff, this is not for you, this is for you. What's that, sir? This is not for you, this is for your bride. Could you give it to her, please? No, it's for your bride. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You got out of that ticket, huh? Good.
Yeah, right.
Say, don't really know what just happened, but we'll go
Not
with it.
hardly.
We never really
All
know.
right. I was joking.
So we'll be going over the monthly report for November. And what happens is our clerical usually takes photos that we post on Facebook. And this happens to be a photo from Red Lake that I posted as a warning to the public as far as, the thickness of ice and that it was unsafe. So nothing really here in Morrison County, no training other than, of course, we remind folks that with the snow, that the ice probably isn't forming as good as it should because snow acts as an insulation. So we're mindful of that, and we do winter weather training, but this just isn't us.
So this one looks cold.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. The next photo is just, we continue to be active in our schools. This is Rick Madison, a deputy of Morrison County, and his K-9 Gator. They were with the Boy Scout Pack 44 at Mary of Lourdes School in Little Falls. So definitely a great experience for our youth. I remember my personal experience in law enforcement is we never came across law enforcement in the schools. Never, ever, never. So to be able to see not only a deputy and a K-9, I couldn't imagine the feeling these kids have, and it's a long-lasting impression. So we continue to be active
Huge, good job.
in our schools. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to bring in one of our K-9s later today, within the next few minutes, just to show you. They're here at training, they're able to step out for a couple seconds and you can kind of see what we've
We have a
invested in.
special guest today.
Pointing at
It's a
Deb, maybe she
surprise.
could be the,
Yeah, well,
No, I've participated in training before and
run away from
I'm
it.
still recovering.
with that, the total number of complaints, we've had 779 for the month. For training, we had 32 officers attend night qualification, cold weather shoot. And what that is post-board, the peace officer standards and training through Minnesota, they have requirements and objectives that we need to complete. And one of them is to do a night shoot and one of them is to do a cold weather shoot. And what we've done is combine them both because usually late November it's cold and it gets dark sooner. So we do weapon qualifications and that's just utilizing our light source that we have on our weapons. And then, of course, being able to shoot proficiently and accurately with no weapon light. So doing a little bit of both. Presentations, I gave a presentation in November to the Minnesota, it was for the Minnesota Post Board, so there are members of the Minnesota Post Board there as well as professors throughout the state of Minnesota, criminal justice professors. And they had me speak, and then there was another Bloomington chief of police speak. So he represented the chiefs, I represent the sheriffs, and we kind of talked to the colleges and how colleges and law enforcement agencies can work together to ensure there's a smooth transition from college to the workforce. So it was a good, open discussion. Multiple people attended. Some of my thoughts were making sure that we have mental health training because that's really what we're dealing with now in the profession, which it sounds like they have some. There's also discussions. I talked to a couple of our deputies, our younger guys, and I said, hey, I was picking their brains. What do you think could work? And they said, well, just preparing us for the call loads. There's a couple deputies that said they had no idea that they'd be coming to an agency and having to deal with suicidal subjects with a weapon, sometimes on a weekly, if not monthly basis. Obviously, it depends. With holidays, people become depressed and sometimes they look at suicide as an option, which obviously we have to be prepared for to be able to communicate and prepare our deputies. So that was just some of the stuff that we had conversations on, and overall, I thought it went well. If you look at our complaints for November, we had 101 criminal complaints. The leading was damage to property, theft, and fraud. Fraud and scams are kind of categorized together. And again, we realize that we still tell people to call in your scams, call in your complaints, because if there's something where we don't see a trend on, it's something new, then we want to alert the public and we'll do a press release. Our thefts, we had 20 thefts. We had 1 theft from a person, 6 from a yard or building. 5 of those were gas drive-offs. 6 thefts were from a vehicle, not a vehicle itself, but from inside a vehicle. 1 shoplifting and 1 worthless check. And then our damage to property was 8 private and 3 public. So that's how that was broke down. If you look at our next slide, which is traffic citations, we had 142 traffic citations. I'm just gonna text the K-9 guy and let him know he should come. Do you have?
Well, I'll take care of it. You
Call
just
dispatch.
continue.
So we had 106 verbal warnings, we had 9 written warnings, and we had 7 for speed. Now, I looked at the numbers, and our numbers for speed have always been higher, but then I did a comparison with last year at this time frame, and they were lower than this. So what happens is you start getting inclement weather, snow, icy roads, and people tend to seem to drive a little slower than the speed limit. So that's why our numbers are down in that category. The next slide is like a 2-year comparison. You can just see for the most part, everything's pretty consistent. Our total number of complaints went down a little bit. Our non-criminal complaints went down a little bit. I don't have an answer for you on that. Sometimes it's categorizing total complaints with like the amount of people that apply for a weapon permit. So sometimes that has something to do with it. Otherwise, everything's pretty consistent across the board. If you look at our inmates, Morrison County, we averaged 39 inmates for the month of November. Itasca, we averaged 9. So our total inmate count, including out-of-county inmates, was 49. The only other thing I was gonna highlight is our out-of-county inmates was 17, and we brought in revenue for the month of November, $17,655. So, any questions on any of that?
Mr. Chair, if I could just, if you would pass the message along for me, we hosted and I entertained a group of, it used to be called Leadership Lindyland, but I think there's a different name for it now with the Chamber of Little Falls, and Scott was very good in terms of informative, and we went upstairs and he brought us back into booking, and it was just a very nice tour for those folks from the community and a good discussion about what goes on up there, what goes on in the organization as a whole. But just if you could let Scott know, he did an excellent job and I appreciate his time. And we also went into dispatch, and it's just nice to be able to really highlight some of the good work we do with folks from the community, and it was very appreciated. So I appreciate you doing that and letting your staff take the time to do that. So thank you.
Were you able to get a hold of anybody?
Well, I did let the chief deputy know that he
Okay.
should let Madison
If
know.
you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and the K-9 should be en route down here. It's gonna be Deputy Austin Sherpan.
I have a question. The inmates brought in from 18 to 19, I kind of glad to see that, because I was a little concerned that it would go down, and it's kind of maintaining the same, so I guess that's a positive thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I reached out to our jail administrator today, before I actually came to the board meeting, and, you know, as noted in the numbers, Itasca's count is up again, which is great.
Yeah.
Because I know there was, you know, there for a while, it seemed like there was either 1 or 2 inmates, maybe 3. It seems like our numbers are up again, so that's good. And if we look at last month, I think we brought in the same, pretty close, $17,000. So if we can be consistent with that, we're not gonna.
And then you had a challenge, I think, was it Itasca, about, what was it, the iPads or the cell phones or something like that, so that's working out, I'm assuming?
Yeah, the revenue is coming in great for jail texting. As I mentioned before, we use it as a tool for law enforcement. We're able to query by inmate, we're able to query by name, so there's a disclaimer that they have to sign, so they're aware that we can check not only the phone records when they make their phone calls, but also the texting as well now. So we could type in a word like gun, drugs, dope, anything like that, and it'll bring everything up by every inmate that used that word, and we can scroll through, and definitely a great tool for investigations.
Good to
And a tool for behavior as well.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Sheriff, a year ago, we looked at investing some more money into to the war on the drug trafficking in the county, and so now a year out, and we look, follow your report on a monthly basis, and we know that we acknowledge the fact that this isn't something that we can address. It goes away and it's never here again, but now a year out, what can you tell us about the war we're waging on the drug trafficking here in Morrison County?
I can tell you that it's helpful that we put on another deputy assigned to the drug task force. If you look at their graph with our 2-year statistics, you'll see the numbers have inclined. Of course, that's because we're working more cases. I can also tell you that it takes approximately 1 year to fully train a deputy who's assigned to the drug task force, because you're working a different role. Not only are you doing investigations, but you're running, when I say running, you are in charge of confidential informants. And that in itself is a practice. That in itself takes training. I like to pick on people. So Deb Gruber, she's gonna be my informant. There's things that she needs to do. There's rules that she has to operate by. I have to be fully in charge of her. She needs to make sure, I need to make sure that she understands what role she's playing. And just to be able to work informants, to work with the money that's exchanged, and to put together a full case that's gonna have results. Takes time, takes training, and you just don't come to on day one and start running informants. So I'm pleased that our numbers are higher, because that means we're doing more work, but just know that it will take a little bit of time just because of the training that's involved. But we've seen great results. We've been involved in some major cases, some of them which started in St. Cloud, but we're able to cut the head off of the snake because that snake was coming through to our county. And we've had cases where we have knowledge that that dope was working its way into our county that we cut off. So good things are happening, and it's definitely made a positive impact thus far with the second investigator.
So you say it takes about a year to get that person up to speed on all the roles that they will undertake in that position. So we're almost a year out of, well, I won't say, because there's time in there, but do you think that person then is pretty much on schedule where you would want them to be at this point in time then?
Yep, so we've had conversations with the commander of the drug task force, or VOTA, Violent Offender Task Force. This person was put in that role in March.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job. I'm not gonna lie to you, they spent some time down in St. Cloud because that's where they have a lot of informants.
Yep.
And the drug task force, their perspective is you need to know how to run cases, you need to know how to run informants. This is gonna expose you, but it's also gonna lead you to an informant that can do work in your own county as well. So there's a lot of work here in Morrison County, but yet for running informants and getting the knowledge of the job, they do spend some time in St. Cloud as well.
Very good, very good. Well, Sheriff, we appreciate the
Yeah,
update on that, and appreciate your work too, and monthly coming to visit with us and keeping us informed of what's going on. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely. I guess if we don't have the K-9 here, we will do it some other time. I
I've been told
apologize.
they are on the way. I don't know exactly.
He's out there.
I
Okay.
gotta,
So,
Let's look for a dog retreat.
let me go grab them. I told them to stay out in the hallway, I guess, because I didn't
well,
want.
you didn't tell me to stay on the hallway, Sean. You could have been there for the last 10 minutes.
Just hopefully it keeps them on the leash.
Yeah, right.
So guys, this is Rocky. And Rocky is 7.5 years old. This is definitely Sherping. Sherping's been with the county, Morrison County now for 7 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
If you just want to talk a little bit about Rocky and how he's a dual-purpose canine and what that means, that'd be awesome.
So Rocky is a 7.5-year-old German Shepherd from the Czech Republic. He's a dual-purpose canine. He's certified in narcotics detection and criminal apprehension. Some of the orders that he's trained on for narcotics detection would be marijuana, methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. We just recently, along with Deputy Madison and Canine Gator, certified through the National Police Canine Association, and passed the trials, which is an annual certification we have to do every year. Certified in both patrol and as well as narcotics detection. Narcotics detection consists of both rooms and vehicles, so we kind of get a broad spectrum of training and certification regarding rooms and vehicles. Rocky has been, he's been with the county for about 6 years now, 6 to 6.5 years.
I can tell you, I've taken many bites from this canine dog, and he is vicious. It's what you want to see. It really is, and he can turn that like a light switch where I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about the home life, how he's just a gentle giant.
Oh yeah, at home he's great. He's like a regular pet. He's a big baby in my life.
I know.
He wants all the love he can get. When we go to work, he turns into work mode, and it's incredible actually how they flip that switch from home life to work life. At work, he does a lot of barking, growling, and stuff like that, but he knows he's at work. And one of his biggest things is keeping everybody, not only residents in the county, but also our deputies and other officers in the county safe.
So I have a question. We always purchase these from Czech. Isn't there any breeders in the United States that bring that breed over here to the United States? Why do we always have to go to Czechoslovakia or whatever?
I think it's the breed line, if you want to expand more on that.
Part of the breeding process, and this is something that we talk about in training quite a bit. We spent 13 weeks down in McDonough Canine, down in Blaine. He's the one who recommended Czech Republic. That's where he gets all the dogs that come through his class, through them. And part of the reason was the purity of their bloodline in their breeding. And what happens, from my understanding, is you get a lot of breeders in the United States, and they might claim to be 100% purebred, but there's quirks that happen down the line, and then the United States dogs tend to typically be more prone to like hip dysplasia and other medical type problems, where they don't seem to run into that issue quite as early on in the dog's life with dogs that come from Czech.
Yeah, that's why it just amazes me that somebody is not gonna think of that, hey, I'm gonna bring that pured line here to the United States, but again, and then in the longevity, he's getting old for his age, isn't he? So,
He's, like I said, he's 7.5 years old now. It kind of depends, some departments run their dogs till 8, usually 8 to 10. It just all depends on the dog's life. I mean, it's just like a person, they can have medical problems
Sure.
earlier on or later on, and it really depends on the dog.
and then another question I've always had, when they retire, then you get to keep them, is that how it works, or?
Well, normally we work with that person or
Okay.
party. Now, if it's one of those things where if the canine's only 4 years old, 5 years old,
Yep.
and the handler is gonna retire, then we're gonna rethink that. 'cause
Sure.
The county's got money invested in it.
Yep.
That's kinda why we wanted to bring the canine, at least one of them today, cause as a board, you guys are allowed to put on that,
Yeah.
let us replace the canines. So there's money into the program, but I can also tell you from my standpoint, when I read every single complaint that comes into the county, I know what these guys are doing, and they're being utilized on traffic stops like they should be for narcotics. And they're also being utilized when someone runs away from the scene, and they have, whether it's a felony warrant or some crime was committed. And have a lot of trust and faith in our canines, and I can tell you that it's reassuring when they show up at the scene and you know you need backup in your partner.
You'd have to be really, what's the word I'm looking for? Brave to run away from a dog like that. It's
Or
like-
stupid.
Stupid, yeah.
More stupid.
Deputy Sherping, does your dog go with you, when you go to work in the morning, or when you go to your shift, does that dog go with you all the time?
Yes, sir.
All the time?
Yep, all the time. Every time I sign on for shift, he's with me.
You know, Mr. Chair, Sheriff Larson, I think you should let Sergeant Gross know that we might have more volunteers next time they do a training. I know I've sat, or experienced that before when SWAT was training and they had the dogs a part of that. And it's certainly something you will never forget, but I think perhaps seeking some volunteers from the county board might not be a
Mr.
bad
Chair,
idea. We played
Sheriff
victims.
Larson, Deputy Sheriffing, all those on, to my left, they might be interested in volunteering. I've been around these guys much too long. I'm
I should
not.
add that we have a bite suit, we have a bite sleeve, and at any time, if anyone does want to volunteer, just give us a call.
But I can tell you, as I was playing the role of a victim or a perpetrator, he certainly got my attention, that pup.
So for the purposes of the agenda, I know you guys need to move on, but is it okay if I, front and center, our deputy and K-9, you guys kind of stay in place, crunch together, and I take a picture?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We'd come down there, but we're all scared.
Exactly.
I don't know if you'll be able to get it with the tables, will you?
He'll come up there.
We go down there?
Hey, just keep
You
your
guys can come
hands,
down, just be careful.
Come down?
just don't look at them, that's all you have to do.
Okay.
You look at them, it's all over.
Don't do what?
So just don't look at him.
Hey, pups.
I bet you he likes playing tug of war, doesn't he?
I was doing that with my Great Dane last night, my arm's still sore.
Oh.
On three, we'll try this.
Hold on, I'm coming. I thought you said get in there.
Three, go ahead. On three. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Cool, thank you all very much.
Tug of war? He does, that's most hardly,
Come on, buddy. If I would've knew he was gonna be on his good behavior, I'd allowed him to come in early. I thought he was gonna be growling the entire time. Have a good Christmas, thank you.
Thank you, Sean, good to see you.
Thanks for bringing your dog.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is gorgeous.
Morning, Brad, morning, Penny.
Morning.
Good morning, Penny.
Good morning. Man, a dog is kind of a hard act to follow.
Yeah. Good thing it wasn't a puppy.
I brought my dog and pony show too. Before I get into the report that's in your board packet, I would like to have one addition if I could. A request for board action is being passed down. During the holiday season, we seem to get a number of organizations that like to help our families. Generally speaking, it is adopting a family with gifts. We have the Scandia Valley Lincoln Lions, a couple of churches. However, one family saw our coats hanging in the lobby and decided to donate $500 in cash so that we could purchase coats and outerwear for some of our kids 18 and under. As a result, because it is a monetary donation, I need board approval to accept the donation and then use it for that specific purpose.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion.
So
and a second.
moved.
I have a motion, I
Second.
need a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
People
Thank you.
are generous. That is nice.
That is certainly true. And so the first item, or the only item then on the other, for social services is a chemical dependency report, and Penny is here to talk about the services around chemical dependency.
Good morning, Penny.
Good morning. Good morning. So chemical dependency, as you can guess, affects not only a person's being, but it also impacts their entire life, right? So we have many individuals here that work with our CD assessor, who may also have other cases or other situations, whether it be in drug court, adult mental health, some child protection. So this program itself just reaches out and touches in so many different ways. And this first slide is going to show a little bit of that. The first slide shows chemical dependency cases that we've had. And you'll see a dramatic increase in 2019. And that is largely due to the social work jail position that we put into place. I went through and I counted out how many the jail social work position opened up for cases, and 84 cases were straight CD out of the 563 people that she screened in the jail over this last year. Now, when you look at these numbers for chemical dependency cases, that brings down the regular Rule 25s that we get through the front door like we normally have, whether they were court-ordered or somebody walking in off the street wanting to go to treatment. That number would come down to 186. So we're looking pretty even as far as the regular Rule 25s are concerned. The part that looks a little bit different is it open to case management. These are the people that not only got that assessment, but are following through, and the Rule 25 assessor is coordinating treatment, they're going to outpatient treatment, they're following recommendations, coming back and going to outpatient treatment. And so Joe opens those into an actual case and continues to coordinate all of that for them. You'll see that that number has increased from 2018 to 2019. So we're seeing people kind of sticking with it and really wanting to follow through with the treatment that's being recommended. Some of this may look a little bit different next year. As of July 1 of 2020 legislation, it will not be any new news to you, but has been discussing said reform for a long time. And what that looks like for Rule 25 assessments, turning into comprehensive assessments and care coordination, which would be a new service under Rule 25. When I talked about Joe providing that coordination for people currently, we're not getting funded to do that. We get potentially funded to do the Rule 25, but nothing thereafter. So some of this may look quite differently in 2020 with those things coming into place. Currently, our revenue that we have been receiving is some federal revenue for completing the Rule 25s. That has somewhat stayed pretty stagnant over the past 4 years. The Rule 25 assessment revenue has increased pretty dramatically, and that is largely due to the revenue that we had gotten from South Country Health Alliance to complete those assessments. And then detox recoveries have also increased over the last 2 years, which was nice to see.
Mr. Chair, Penny, can you go back just a little tiny bit and elaborate, if you will, on the funding? That funding isn't going to be there, you kind of suggested.
In regards to the said reform,
Yeah, so in terms of our expenses and reimbursements, starting,
I mean, we're doing it, but we're going to be doing more the way it sounds, and we're not going to get funded. We're not funded for it now either.
we get a little bit of administrative reimbursement from the state.
Okay.
And then we do get some health plan recoveries for those who are on medical assistance.
Okay.
Beginning July 1st of 2020, substance use disorder reform has added comprehensive assessments and treatment care coordination as billable activities. So how we do services may change a little bit beginning July 1st if what the state is indicating comes to fruition. So, because currently we are working with those individuals beyond just the Rule 25. We're assisting them, getting them into treatment. We support them in transitioning treatment programs. We help them reestablish back in the community. We're not getting reimbursed a whole lot for those services. And with substance use disorder reform, that's what treatment care coordination is about.
And I'm really not trying to play stump the band, but it's a mandate that we do this, but we're not going to be funded for this kind of type of a thing?
We are currently being funded, not at the level that we're providing the services.
That's a better way.
And there will be more funding available
more
once
funding.
substance use disorder reform
Goes
is
into
fully
effect.
implemented. And it's been a challenge. I won't get into the
Yep.
challenges, but it was supposed to already, July 1st of 2020 it was supposed to be fully implemented. It now may just be starting to be implemented July 1st of 2020.
Very good.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, Brad and Penny, so you had mentioned, some of this funding or some of this reimbursement comes to social services through South Country Health Alliance, and with our change in provider now going forward, will our new provider assume that that same role that South Country has had, or is all of that kind of trumped into what you had just described in the new government program?
That benefit remains the same. We actually met with Blue Plus yesterday,
Okay.
and they're going to get us the contract for chemical dependency assessments.
Okay.
But that benefit set is the same across the health plans.
Excellent, thank you.
The next section of the report talks a little bit about the said reform and some of those figures in regards to that care coordination component that we were talking of. It also involves a peer recovery support option, and like we talked about, the Rule 25 transitioning into a comprehensive assessment. We will continue to be responsible to manage the consolidated funds throughout that process too. In regards to detox costs, we notice a pretty significant increase in 2018. And when I looked at what might have triggered that, two very clear things kind of showed out to me. We had a pretty significant increase in our rates. It went from $445 to $490 per day. And the transportation costs also increased from our providers. And then we had an increase in not only the number of people, but the number of days that they were staying in detox. So all of those components together really impacted that cost. However, knowing that we recovered more in that same time period was nice to see that offset. We are looking in 2019, the numbers are through October, so we are looking to kind of get back into that plateaued level through the middle of the graph that you're seeing, and I don't expect it to be as high as it was in 2018.
Those 2018 numbers are full year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is a full year. The next couple slides are state-generated numbers that come out on a Danes report, and I just like to highlight these to give some idea of what's happening in regards to treatment and other components of CD. You can notice that over the course of the last 4 years, short-term residential treatment, hospital inpatient stays, and even the non-residential, that outpatient CD treatment, all of those continue to decline, where people are more inclined to maintain a long-term residential treatment to meet their needs. The next one is the legal involvement. So this shows everybody who had CD, chemical dependency, interaction. Did they also have a legal component to it? Also happy to see that in we had 128 in 2017, and that reduced to 117 people had legal involvement in 2018. So you can see how some of these different components, even when Sean was talking, Sheriff Larson was talking about how all of these different things kind of do come into play and touch one another. The next graph is the lifetime detox admissions. Again, we notice that the number of people who are coming through detox 2, 3, 4, or more times is reducing. We see more people in, maybe they've come back once, but multiple times it has reduced. The age of the persons that were on the report, very happy to see that the younger population, under 18 and 18 to 24, the number of those persons is decreasing. We may maintain individuals as they are older and have been in this for a given period of time, but I'm happy to see that the number of younger individuals, we are reducing those number of people coming into the CD programs. Top 3 diagnoses continue to stay the same with alcohol, opioids, and amphetamine, but a significant, look at the decrease in opioids. From 2017, 70, to 2018, only 33.
And what do you contribute that to? Do you contribute it to education?
I would say that this county has a large number of proactive programs and has placed a large emphasis on law enforcement and other programs to target that, the opioid epidemic, so to speak. And I would think it's the whole package. When you get all of the different programs and stakeholders at the same table, focusing on the same thing from their own venue, I think it makes positive impacts and changes.
Very
The only other thing I might say, the reason it's reduced that significantly is our medication-assisted treatment program does not actually report to Danes. So more than likely, they're being served in our local program versus going off to, at least I'm pretty sure they are not submitting information to Danes, which what 245D providers have to submit information to. So, so I'm thinking that might be the reduction as well, that they're being served locally in our treatment program here versus going to other treatment providers.
Anything else?
Just one additional comment that I would like to make. Tabitha and Deb Gruber received an email from an individual that may be interested in setting up an outpatient program. Part of the requirement is to get a letter of need from the county board. So they sent it to me. I'm reaching out to them to talk a little bit to them about what kind of their program is, where it's gonna be before we submit a letter of need, which is required under Minnesota rules. Well, they have to ask. If we don't give it to them, they can still go out and start a program. But, so I'm kind of diverting that right now to have that conversation and may bring it back to the board. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you both Otherwise-
very much.
Thank you, Penny.
Penny, thank you.
Very good, Penny.
Public health, Brad, you get to stay there,
I
right?
get to stay here. Cindy's gonna come up. Unfortunately, you're not able to see Lisa Vigil today, who is not able to be with us. She's unfortunately somewhere she probably doesn't want to be. They lost a friend. And so Cindy is gonna be here to give the report, but Lisa is the person who replaced Jill Scott and supports our nurse-family partnership here in Morrison County as well as across the CHB and is the reflective supervisor. So Cindy is going to be here on her behalf.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Commissioners.
Cindy.
So Nurse Family Partnership is that program that's very specifically for first-time moms. They need to be admitted during the pregnancy before 28 weeks of gestation. And we follow that mom and child until that child turns 2 before they graduate from our program. Our focus is those families that are high risk, helping to reduce preterm births, decrease tobacco, alcohol, other chemical use, and improve the socioeconomic status of the families that we work with. So we're just going to look a little bit of our data for this year. Nurse Family Partnership is considered the gold standard for maternal child health nursing programs, and it is recognized nationwide with a lot of data for many, many years, 40 years plus. So that's what really gives the state the impetus to say we're going to pay you a lot more to take care of the people in the Nurse Family Partnership. So if I have someone in my straight maternal child health nursing, we only get $65, $66 for a visit. But when we do a visit under the Nurse Family Partnership program, we get $144. So there's a significant difference in how it's looked at there. It has proven results with a lot of things, including improving the child development. So we're watching all the way along if that child is in a high-risk family, how are they developing, how are they doing, and what can we do to move them along the path to be successful. It also gets these moms to the labor and delivery much better prepared, and we end up having safer outcomes for those babies. I won't go into every single detail on that slide, but you have that. It's been offered here in Morrison and Todd counties since 2010, and Cass and Wadena came on board in 2013. So that's that group of 4 that we work together. In 2019, we've had 82 referrals, which is a little bit of a decrease. We think that we could attribute that to a lot of turnover in a couple of the programs, and we're looking at ways to improve that. 39% of our referrals have accepted. Nationwide, 36%, so we're above that average, and we're just under the Minnesota average of 47%. However, I'm confident that once our 2 new nurses are trained up to the level that they should be, we'll have that number back up. Our current caseloads, Todd is at 10. Their nurse is working at partial capacity because they're down a nurse in that county right now. Morrison is at 13. Again, we have that expansion grant happening, so we're building, and I'm happy to report just in the last 2 weeks, I believe we have 3 or 4 accepted referrals, so that number is going to really start to climb. Wadena is at 15 with the goal of 13 to 14, so they're carrying some extra cases there. And then Cass is at 9. One of the challenges in Cass is just the size of that county and the amount of time that she spends on the road. And they also have the reservation in Cass, which has a program similar, so they don't get very many referrals from that population. One of the goals for 2020 is that 81% of our clients will initiate breastfeeding. Nationally, the goal is at 89%. In Minnesota, we actually have 91%. So we have really good numbers there. On our NFP team, we have had 100% of our moms initiate breastfeeding. So that's awesome to see. Another goal going forward for those families is to make sure that those children are immunized. And our children in the Nurse Family Partnership Program are at 100% up to date on immunization. So they're really doing a great job there. Another goal is that there not be subsequent pregnancies within the first 6 and 12 months. We've got Minnesota average at 12%. We did go above that at 15% for our 12 month. So we're close. Another real significant thing that we want to do is make sure that those moms are not just taking good care of their babies, but they're looking at getting back into the workforce so that they don't rely on public assistance for their entire life. And so helping them with some life skills is really important. In the Minnesota average is 55%. We're really close with 54.5% in our counties. So they're doing great there. Just some statistics that come to us from NFP, that for every dollar that we invest in the Nurse Family Partnership, we get back, I believe that 570 is potential gains. So we're keeping those folks off of public programs, savings in medical care because of the public programs, and keeping them out of the criminal justice system. Looking forward, some things that we want to do is to continue with quality improvement now that we've got all of our staff on board and trained, just moving forward towards those goals that we talked about. Statistic just saying in the 4 counties, we've served 73 families in the past year and 170 visits. So that's a lot of face-to-face time with those families. Our goal is to increase, get fully staffed, and just make sure that all the eligible families are getting what they need. This is just an example of some of the outreach materials. The nurses are actually making visits to clinics to talk to practitioners in the clinics about what this program means, so that if a mom comes through that's a possible referral, that the clinic has seen our face. Oh yeah, I remember that nurse from Morrison County. I want you to go see her. A lot of times adding that validity of the practitioner saying this is a program I want you to participate in makes a big difference. They also make make visits to schools, to the at-risk kids in the, I'm having the program for the kids that are trying to complete school outside of school.
See, the continuing education center.
Exactly. So they're going to places like that to make sure that they're connecting with all the potential moms. So last spring, we were fortunate enough to be able to expand the Nurse Family Partnership. So we've got a 4-year grant to add a part-time nurse. And so that was our new hire in Brenda that came on board in November. And she has been out to Denver and had her training, and she is super excited and super energetic about the program. And every time she gets a new mom to accept, I hear about it because she's really, really fired up about it. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with her in the WIC program, and I'm just really impressed with her mannerisms, and I think she's going to be a real asset to our program. So between her and Lisa here at Morrison County, I think we're really going to very well with this population. NFP and Minnesota Department of Health have a great big hurdle that we're trying to work through right now. NFP just changed all of their documentation systems, so how everything is managed and all that data gets to NFP changed in November, and so that's been a big hurdle. Not only did we have to do it here, but Lisa had to hold the hands of the other counties and their data entry staff and their nurses on logging into the new system and putting all their documentation in there. And so we're moving through that. And then on 1/1, the state of Minnesota is also changing how we submit our data to them. So we've got another big learning curve that involves NFP and the MCH nurses. So we've got a couple of real high-tech things happening in the next couple months.
One of the things Commissioner Blaine will hear about tomorrow at our Community Health Board meeting is that we are writing a grant to help MCCC, which is our provider of PHDoc, work on that link between MDH, Nurse Family Partnership, and the PHDoc system, so PHDoc counties won't have to dual entry those who are working with NFP, so.
So that interoperability is really gonna make this much smoother, and so if you put it into one system, the state of Minnesota is going to get it instead of having to, put it into two, so that's awesome. Just one other exciting thing that's actually not in here, but I just wanted to let you know, we got that Sourcewell grant that we've started doing some extra training for the Mothers and Babies program that addresses mental health needs for the young moms. And part of that grant was purchasing some curriculum because we never had a nice curriculum for our maternal child health program. So when moms would go out, they didn't have a book or a guidance. And so when we purchased this curriculum, we went with one after doing some of our homework out of the University of Florida. Interestingly enough, the state of Minnesota is now looking at a new evidence-based program that won't be as expensive to implement as NFP. It's not intended to replace NFP, but it's intended to support NFP, and it's evidence-based. And the curriculum that they use is the curriculum that we just purchased with our grant dollars from Sourcewell. So we're ahead of the curve, and we're pretty excited about that. And we're excited that we're not going to have to learn yet another new curriculum, that they're looking at one that we already selected. So we feel pretty happy to be in that spot right now. So we're just, right now, we're still in the rebuild because of some staffing changes, but we feel very confident. Did anybody here attend when, Commissioner Blaine, you were there when Pete Stauber came?
Yes.
So Pete.
Very good presentation.
Yeah, Pete Stauber, our representative from the Duluth area that covers most of our CHB, made a visit to us this late summer to talk about the NFP program. I think that there was some connection behind the scenes between the NFP organization and Pete, but he came and he sat down. We actually brought an NFP recipient mom in, and she was a mom who was really working the program and really understood the value, and she was working 2 jobs, and she was fired up and excited, and it was really neat to have not only the NFP nurses talk about what they do, but to have a mom sitting there willing to share what the program has meant to her. So we feel that legislatively, we have some great support for NFP.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, any comments, questions?
This is a program that's been very successful for this county in addressing the needs of young mothers and mothers in need. And kudos to your staff there. For all that they do in providing that help out there, because I think it's extremely important. We see we see the fiscal numbers on this, on impact and that, but I think, as Cindy said in the presentation we look at how this impacts people's lives. So I like looking at this better from the personal perspective than maybe the administrative or fiscal perspective out there too. But we know that's a part of that. But thank you.
I will pass that along to the nurses that work the program. They work hard at it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cindy,
Thank you, Cindy.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cindy.
Brad, you got something else?
I have one other one. We have a change in ownership for Diamond Willow Assisted Living. And so they need to have a new food, beverage, food pools and lodging license.
I'll move on this, Mr.
I have a
Chair.
motion, I need a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have, Commissioners. Thank you and Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yep, thank you, Brad.
Kathy? Good morning, Kathy.
Morning, Kathy.
What do you have for us today?
So what I have is, I'm looking for approval to attend, I got selected to go to Washington DC in February, the 22nd through the 27th, or those approximate days, so it's out-of-state travel. And what my purpose would be there is to represent our veterans within Minnesota with the DAV.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Kathy, when you say that you got selected, how did that happen?
There were people that, out of our local chapter in the state, that decided that I would be a good representative for, mostly for our female veterans, but
So you were
also
nominated or you applied?
nominated.
Oh, really? Well, congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? I have a motion and a second. There's no more discussion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, have
That
a
was
Merry
it?
Christmas, everybody.
Wow, that was
Thank you,
Yeah,
Kathy.
it
That was an
very
easy one.
Merry Christmas. Nice sweater.
Yeah, I know, pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Great. Auditor Treasurer. Could you state your name for the record? Good morning, Chelsea.
Morning, Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Good morning. In front of you today, I have a resolution, and it's requesting the approval of the resolution for an exempt permit for the Morrison County Wild Gobblers to hold a raffle on February 7th, 2020 at the Little Falls Ballroom.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And next, I have a request to approve the warrants.
Gentlemen, this will be a roll call. I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Myself as aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Thanks,
Chelsea,
Chelsea.
Hey,
thank
Chelsea,
you.
that was an easy one.
Yes, it was.
Merry Christmas
Thanks,
if I don't
guys.
see you before then.
Sounds
Merry
good.
Christmas.
Thanks, you guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Public Works.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Morning, Steve.
Number of items for your consideration today. I have them. Okay, Mr. Chairman, our first item for your consideration kind of were, there are three RBAs relative to this action. The city of Royalton is a city under 5,000 population that is working with MnDOT to make some improvements on Cedar Street within their municipal limits. Cedar Street runs parallel to US Highway 10, essentially from the Platte River to the north to our county stated Highway 26. They're going to do reconstruction on Cedar Street, which will include curb and gutter, storm sewer, new surfacing. The city is also wanting then to support that and make an application for transportation alternative funds so that they can add sidewalk along with the street construction project that they're dealing with. In order for them to apply for those funds, they need a sponsor. And it has to be a sponsor that handles federal highway dollars, and that normally is for small cities or counties. And so there's the thing that sponsorship does is it puts some burden onto the county and potentially some liabilities if the city didn't maintain the facility or if there are some costs in terms of keeping the project on track that were incurred. And in order for us to limit our liabilities, we enter into an agreement with the city. If they want to apply for these funds, they have to agree that they will reimburse us for those type of costs if we run into them. We do agree that we will do the administrative costs for the city at no cost to them. It's relatively minor work that is routed through us because we're acting as the fiscal agent. And then we would enter into the sponsorship resolution, and also there is a maintenance resolution that the city agrees that they will maintain the facility as a public facility and they'll take care of it over the lifetime of that project. And so there are three action items here in order for us to be able to do this for the city of Royalton. We've done this twice for the city of Pierce, and we did Safe Routes to School for the city of Royalton in the past, so this isn't something new for us. And so My request would be that the board would adopt the resolution authorizing the agreement between the county and Royalton for us to act as the sponsors, and it lays out the terms and conditions for costs associated with that, and it directs the administrator and the chairman to sign the agreement.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Mr.
I
Chair.
have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, for clarification, Steve, when we met on this, I believe it was at Public Works or whatever, this, you referred to it at that time as Center Street in Royalton, but it's, and you questioned that.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Wincher, but just for clarification, we're talking about the same.
We're talking about Cedar Street, not
Cedar
Center
Street.
Street. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, and I just want to make sure that we have that clarified, so.
Thank you. That is correct.
And that's the one that starts kind of by the Dairy Queen and then would go
Goes
Parallel to
north.
Highway 10.
parallel
and
north
runs to
into
the
town.
Correct.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
sorry about that.
No, not at all. It was just.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Are those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, then the second resolution is to authorize sponsorship for the project.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, I need a second.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the third resolution then is also a resolution agreeing that the facility will be maintained as in the agreement.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll move on this
I have a
one.
motion, I need a second. I have that second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, fourth request for board action goes back to our planning meeting on Tuesday, in which we had our team leader, DJ Prom, review our bridge priority list with the county board, the locations of those structures, and how we determine those. Our request is that the board would adopt the priority list for replacement of deficient bridges within our system.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion to authorize the resolution prioritizing the replacement of deficient bridges.
Mr. Chair, since there's one or two of those in my district, I'll move on that.
All right, I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? Commissioner?
Nope.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Sorry about that.
Hey, we're getting into New Year's here. We're pretty close.
This one I have a little bit of extra on.
Thanks. I can just send them down.
Considering applications for 2024 federal highway dollars.
There's one there, Commissioner.
I think these two kind of go together. The city of Little Falls is a city over 5,000 population, so they are eligible to apply directly for federal transportation monies. They are proposing to apply for the completion of 18th Street Southeast, essentially from the old Walmart going south to the airport road extension that we constructed this past summer. It's a good project that I think ties all of that together, opens up a lot of property for future development. All of that, just as an overall transportation system, really, I think, makes things fit well for that whole southeast part of this area of the city. And so we, at the same time, are asking the board, we discussed our 160th Avenue, which runs from Trunk Highway 27 to CASA 35. Essentially, the Evergreen Road carries a lot of heavy traffic because of the solid waste management facility. We're seeing the issue with it, and why I'm asking that this be a project that we be able to apply for, is that we're starting to see rutting. We have fairly high ride quality of the road currently, but there is rutting starting to appear, and we want to improve the strength so that that doesn't exasperate itself to where we start to get hydroplaning, that type of unsafe conditions. So my request is that you would authorize us to make application that we would pay the local share for the 160th Avenue project, but also consider supporting the City of Little Falls application for the 18th Street extension down to our County Road 257, which ties this whole area together.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion in a second.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, County Road, whichever, the Evergreen Road, if you will, from Highway 27 all the way down to, it's 35, right?
Yes.
35, that entire road is what you're
The
talking about?
entire road is what we would make for application. Part of it is the Township of Little Falls jurisdiction. They have passed a resolution and letter of support, so their end of it will be theirs also.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair, that motion and second was for both the supporting document and the actual submittal, right?
Was that correct? All
Oh,
right.
one, yep.
Gentlemen, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
There's a lot of traffic on that Evergreen Road with, not just with the landfill, but you have the development out there, the foothills and that, and, yeah, this'll be nice when you look at this and you think about this in the future and the extension of the old Walmart Road down in there.
That's what I was, this is the old Walmart Road, right? That what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Well, that's one of them that we're talking about, but
Oh, right, but that's the one the city wants to do.
yes.
Yeah, you see, you look forward at, and you just think in your mind, there's a lot of potential for a lot of things to happen in that corridor over there too. We'll look back at the work that you did this past year with that airport road extension out there and how that plays a role in all this too. It's a good thing we did this when we did, I think.
For sure, I agree. We've been successful with some outside resources, and it really opens up a large area for some good economic development.
Yeah, timing is critical. Good things.
Gentlemen, I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next action item is a request that you authorize the department to utilize Foth Consulting to assist us in preparation of annual report documentation that's required by the EPA and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We have in the past utilized Leash. We had Leash and Associates for many years as our consulting in this area. That company was purchased by Terracon. There was a number of employees that stayed on with Terracon. There's been folks that have moved on since then. And we find ourselves, I think, in a position that we believe we need to utilize another consultant in order for us to get the accuracy and the information from an individual who has really dealt with our facility for a period of time. And by moving it to Foth, that would allow that.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for authorization for the Public Works to utilize Foth Consulting in preparing required solid waste documents to the EPA and MPCA.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we vetted this at T-Swag.
Public Works, yep. All right, gentlemen, if there's no more discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, then the last action item in your packets is a request for the approval of final plat number 2 for County Road 257. That is the project that we did this summer, the airport road extension. We platted that right-of-way. Essentially what it does is it allows us to tie the right-of-way limits in a fashion that is much easier for us to be able to describe, and the way we write the easements, it allows us just to refer to block and area so that we don't have to go through meets and bounds and very complicated descriptions. The county surveyor has reviewed this and approved it, but we need county board action so that we can record it.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for authorization to approve the final plat number 2 for County Road 257.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And one last item I would like to just touch base with the board on is, I've been thinking about how we're going to be able to manage our construction program in 2020 with the landfill cell construction. And I know that I'm going to have to utilize one of our regular engineering technicians pretty much assigned to that construction throughout the summer. There's a lot of things that happen in a landfill cell construction, and the time to do that work will essentially take the entire summer. So we have that going on, and we'll also then have a fairly large road and bridge construction program. We have CASA 34, which is an additional federal project. We'll be up on 8 and 51. We have a number of culvert and bridge replacements down on 21. And we also are in position for 13 and 52 on the northwest side of Little Falls. One of the things that is, as we've talked this through, that has come up as a potential opportunity for us to be able to manage this is to collaborate with Soil and Water Conservation District. They have an engineering technician that is qualified for bituminous street inspection. And they had made application for grant funding to do some work on the completion of the culvert program across the townships. That was not successful. So there appears that there would be some time for their engineering tech to be able to help support our program. And so my request to the board is that you would authorize and allow us to work with the Soil and Water Conservation District to utilize their engineering tech to help support our road and bridge program this summer, construction program this
Gentlemen,
summer.
I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Working together. And two agencies that work together, working together. I like it.
And again, I appreciate that too, to work with them too. And I know who you're talking about over there, and I think he would do a great job helping out, so.
Mr. Chair, just as an aside, it's not uncommon that we've had students come in for the summer where we've been able to fill that workload, or we've hired temporary staff for those times. So it's not uncommon, given the seasonality of some of this work, to have extra help for that. So this is kind of a nice fit, that we're not out searching for somebody brand new, but somebody who's familiar with the organization and the area. So it worked out nice.
All right, gentlemen, any more discussion? I have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, Steve.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Thank you,
members of the
Steve.
board.
Do you want to keep going, or do you want to take a break?
Are you guys good, or you guys want to keep going?
Thanks.
Let's keep going. No, we have no objection, so come on up, Steve.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, before you today, I have, members of the board, I have need to get the approval of the final levy and budget that we'll set for 2020. And that levy would be $19,094,153, which is a 1.28% increase from the previous year. As you well know, we've met numerous times since May. I think the process started in May, June, July. We've been meeting, discussing, talking. And last Wednesday was the Truth and Taxation evening, and I think we had a few people show up. Most of them had questions on market values, so there wasn't much discussion going on with that meeting. So we're here today to approve that levy and for 2020.
I'll move on this,
I
Mr.
have a
Chair.
motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? I may just say the 1.28, and again, that being at the AMC, now I talked to a few counties over there, and whether this is good or bad, but I believe we're the lowest in the county, or in the state of Minnesota, for our levy of 1.28. So again, unless there's somebody else sneaking in there, again, is it always good to be there? In this case, I'm hoping it is, so thanks again to the staff, to the county board, to everybody that, I mean, we watch our dollars and cents here, and I think everybody here does a great job. And I appreciate everyone's work, from the administrator down to whoever. And again,
here.
thanks to the board too. So I have yeah, and this will be a roll call. So is there any more discussion? All right, Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carried.
All right, the next item I have, Mr. Chair, would be to approve the levy for the Morrison County HRA for 2020 of $40,000.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So move, Mr.
All
Chair.
right,
Locked up there for a
all right,
second.
that's fine. You have a motion, second. Any more discussion? This will also be a roll call. If there's no more discussion, Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carried.
All right, and the final motion I'll need is to approve the 2020 Morrison County fee schedule. As you know, we held a public hearing last week, and of the changes that were made to the fee schedule, attached to this today is the full fee schedule for the county, and this was all included in the budget and levy that was set, and I guess we forgot the budget, didn't we? We'll get back to
Well, we
that.
did forget the budget.
We'll get back to
Yes,
that.
we did.
I always forget that we got that one. So if we could get approval for the 2020 fee schedule.
So move, Mr.
I
Chair.
have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? Because again, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire. Myself is aye. Motion carried.
I had this open for a reason. Apparently I didn't.
You're
forgot
doing a
about
great
it,
job,
so-
Steve.
All right. And the last item would be to approve the 2020 budget, which is a 6.67% increase with a budget of $50,329,655. The biggest share of that increase, for the most part, is due to that landfill cell that's going up in next year is about a $1.5 million project. And of course, the other issues, the other things increasing, or the step increases, COLAs and such, so that's 6.67%.
All right, gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion. I need a second. Any more discussion? Again, this will be a roll call vote.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to make a point here. You know, when you look at a 6.67% increase in the budget and a 1.28% increase in the levy, and the explanation for the increase in the budget with the cell construction, you can tell that money has been managed very well throughout all the departments of county government, that we have funds in place to allow for construction that would make a marked difference in budget this year over, or this coming year over this past year. And so I think those are good things in there, and I think it's necessary to note those things also that way. So.
All right. Any more discussion? And again, I'm bringing up the follow-up with Commissioner Blaine. Those cells, they do fill up, you know. So I think the last one was 2014. Commissioner Jelinski, I think, was when they had the big hole in the ground. So again, we'll have to start a new one. So again, gentlemen, I have a motion and a second. Again, this will be a roll call vote. There's no more discussion. Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Myself is aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I could just take a moment, I don't know if you noticed, but Steve has kind of this glow of happiness going on here, and I think it might be
That's
a
why I lost my
result,
mind earlier and it went out of
a
order.
result of the fact that he's in the process of moving down into our office here, as part of, he's always been a part of the admin team, but he'll be located with us, and I think that's that excitement that's kind of just
Well, that's good.
I'm
happening
noticing
around
that.
him, this aura.
I'm noticing it.
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, no, I think it's excitement. But in all seriousness, aside, I think it'll be great to have Steve physically right next to us. I mean, as we all know, that personnel costs and that HR component of what we do is the primary driver of our $50 million budget, because we are a service organization. And so being able to have him, who's good at the numbers, who really can help us dive into some of those questions when it comes to managing those costs and all that right there, on the team and physically located. I'm looking forward to that. We haven't had that, and I think it's going to be truly helpful for everyone. And as we work on different issues and tackle different components, I appreciate the fact that Steve's a part of that team, and not only, as we meet otherwise, but physically located there. So excited about
Does
that.
he get a window of that wall? Is that what he's gonna get, a window? And then,
I gave up my window.
Did
Yeah,
ya?
he's,
Yep.
but that, he's okay with it, right? Yep.
There's a glow, it's just a glow.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on a more serious note, before Steve gets up from the table, I want to say thank you to Steve for all that he does for us as the board in getting us all the pertinent documents and the support in that budget process that we go through on a yearly basis. And he makes our job a lot easier by carrying all the, he carries all the heavy load that way. And so I don't want him to leave the table without being able to say thank you for all that you do for us, that make us look good in that process there. The second point I'll make is I'm not sure if we envy or don't envy you having to move down into the estrogen ocean down there too, so.
Well, there's a lot that goes into this budget package, just like there's a lot that goes into the financial, and it's, the help of all the department heads in this process is greatly appreciated. They all do an excellent job in communicating to me and talking back and forth and making sure that we get a document that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And if you're not, I guess we keep continuing moving on until we get that document in how you want it, so.
I want to make sure that you understand that we understand that, yeah, there's all these departments within county government that bring all their budgets and their asks and all that stuff, and you're the one who magically puts that all in a nice, neat package for us that's understandable, it's concise, and it's always accurate, and I appreciate that immensely.
Thank you.
Thank
Anything
you.
else, gentlemen? Thank you, Steve.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it. Merry
Good day.
Christmas.
Thanks.
Have a
you
good
too.
day, thank you.
Deb?
I have. The conclusion of this go-around of union contracts is here. And so the final unit of the 4 that we needed to negotiate and move forward with at the beginning of 2020 is there. So I have the tentative agreement for the dispatch unit with LELS, waiting your approval. Same overall parameters when it comes to adjustments in terms of general staff adjustments or cost of living adjustments, and really very little change that came forward. I think we had, less than a 2-hour meeting, and some of that was just a back and forth, answering some questions on other things. So the union contracts as a whole went very, very well this year. I appreciate the department's help with that, and I also appreciate the staff coming forward with being really a part of the team in terms of how we manage employment here at the county. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll move on that.
Gentlemen, I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
All right, any more discussion to approve the tentative agreement with the LELS dispatch unit? If there's no more discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
thank you. That is nice to have off our plate, as it takes a lot of time. The next 2 are items that we talked about last week. The Morrison County Employee Engagement Health and Wellness Policy. Again, this really isn't anything new in terms of operations, but every now and then we find we just need to tighten up our policies to make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's when it comes to auditing and making sure that we're paying attention to all of those components that we need to pay attention to have you approve what it is we're doing here in an organization more formally. So that's what this one is.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion, and I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, the other policy relates to our Years of Service Award. The changes here are only in the first 3 levels of award for I think that's the right term, but it's moving it from a very essential, minimal value award to one of $5 increments in those first years, starting with 25.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I got one aye. Do we get
Aye.
a couple more? All right,
Aye.
we got them all. Thank you. All right, opposed?
Aye.
Motion.
Both, Mr.
Yeah, all right, motion carried.
All right, and that will be coming forward in March, I think we do this, or is it February? One of the two, February. It's always a good day.
What's February?
When we bring forward those years of service award and have staff, and so we're hoping to, have a nice ceremony again with that. It's
We'll
always nice
find
to
out,
recognize.
Commissioner Lemire.
You bet.
I'll let you know where I need you and what I need you to do. Other than that, furniture continues to be installed upstairs. If you want to take a minute and walk through that, by all means. I believe your badge should get you in up there if you want to do that on your way out. But it looks nice, so it's coming along. And move's still on schedule to happen. We'll get the furniture installed, finished this month, cleaning. We have folks come in and clean, and we do a punch list of the furniture items, making sure nothing's incorrect, and then we'll start moving soon.
All
Good.
right. How about committee reports? Thanks, Deb. What day are we going?
December 22nd
22nd?
through January 4th.
January 4th. And I tell you what, how about, let's start with, today is, well, Commissioner Wilson's not here, because that's.
Yeah,
who
we
was-
don't have any meetings that week of Christmas?
or
or do we?
next week.
No, I don't have anything with you guys.
I got 7 meetings.
I don't know if you have outside meetings, but we do not have any type of organized
Well,
meeting.
tell you what, let's start with Commissioner Lemire.
All right, I ain't got much.
For the 22nd through January 4th.
I got the 31st,
What's the 31st?
county board meeting, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And HRA at 1 o'clock.
On the 31st?
Yep,
Okay.
that's all I got.
Anything else? All right. How about Commissioner Jelinski?
I'm pretty late. I should have a SCCB meeting on the 26th, but that's been canceled.
Okay, so,
On the 30th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I've got a EMS Joint Powers Board Task Force meeting, and that's going to be held in the administrative conference room here in the Government Center. And on the 2nd, I should have a legislative committee conference call with the SECB. That has also been canceled. And that is all I have.
Commissioner Blaine?
Going back to Monday, the 23rd, which is next Monday, and I wanted to ask Ms. Gruber if you were going to attend the South Country Finance Committee meeting that Monday.
I didn't know whether or not I didn't know if I was going to be off yet. So I told them I likely wouldn't be able to, but if I am here in the office, I certainly will. So that doesn't really help you at all, so you're welcome. I think I am able to be here.
The meeting is in Long Prairie,
Oh,
is ITV'd from Long Prairie.
I actually don't think I will be then. I think we'll have company.
And so if that is the case, then, and after, I had a conversation with Mr. Vold yesterday morning about that it might be good for one of us to have more than a blush even though it's not the closing financials,
Yeah.
but the December financials, there. So I'm going to tentatively, keep that appointment to attend that meeting, if that's okay with you.
Yep, absolutely. And if I end up being able to make it, then I will
Then
plan on
send-
attending
send-
also.
Yeah, and then, yeah, or send me an email or whatever, but, other than that, I have on my calendar for the big old, TSWAC meeting on, January 3rd, that Friday, first Friday of the month.
Yep, you're.
Huh?
Yeah.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Well, I got one, took me all year.
Track, or is it public?
It says, well,
It's T-SWAC.
so I'm looking at Tabitha, because she always has it right, so I'm assuming we're going over to get our,
confirm and I'm
No, it should be Public Works. We had T-SWAC just the other day. This one will be at Public Works.
This was a rollover from like 2019. So this wasn't updated yet?
So we either have a Public Works or a T-SWAC that day.
No,
We're
it,
supposed to
no, it's
be
Public
some-
Works, because we just had T-SWAC in
She'll,
the
she'll send
administrative.
the, Tabitha, we'll rely on her to send the clarification. Other than that,
Who knows?
I won't have a South Country meeting
You won't.
On the second?
on the second, so.
Well, that's good catch, and yep,
Good catch is right.
and Merry Christmas to South Country.
Wow.
Do you have a Region 5 though on the 26th?
I don't, we had our Region 5 annual meeting, or monthly meeting, which was the Christmas party and everything, was this past, Thursday.
Okay.
So that is done. Thank you, though, that's a good catch.
You guys got me almost covered. I think we have a holiday gathering today from 11 to 12, and then 12:30 to 1:30 at the Little Falls Ballroom for all the
Mr.
employees.
Chair, I made an error, if I may.
All right.
On the 2nd of January at 10 o'clock in the morning, I do have a legislative committee
At what time?
conference call, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, conference, it's a call, all right. So if I want to come and listen in, you'll let me?
Come right on over.
Or what? Soil and Water is this Friday.
Okay.
I think I told you that Friday.
So if you, so Tabitha, if you find out that,
Motion to adjourn.
Come on.
thank you. Second.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Amanda, Merry Christmas.
I just wanted to ask you if you do